The dream drowned here. A teenage girl disappears in the night. She was staying with family while her mother went through a painful divorce. She went out late after asking permission from her grandfather. It was just supposed to be an evening with friends, but she never came home. The community searched for her. They gathered near a wooded area known as the Creek. Flyers went up. Prayer vigils were held. Everyone hoped for good news. But there was none. Eventually, the truth emerged. A high school senior, her ex-boyfriend, had killed her. She had told him she might be pregnant. He feared it would ruin his future, his plans to enlist in the Marines. So he led her into the woods and took her life. He pretended to help in the search. He cried with her friends. He stood among the mourners, lit candles and said nothing. Until they found the evidence. Until the story cracked. Until the monster was named. The trial was swift. He was sentenced to more than 50 years, and the courtroom overflowed with grief, fury, betrayal. But the real trial didn't end there, because the grief didn't end, the fury didn't end, the dream didn't end. And now the world stood at the edge of the creek, not to mourn a body, but to wade through the illusion of suffering it still believes is real. I can't sleep. I can't eat. This is the body's testimony. Not of what happened at the creek, but of what guilt is doing in the mind. The Course says, the body is merely the mind's servant. So when sleep won't come, when food has no taste, when the body shakes and withers and sinks, it is not because of what occurred outside. It is because the dream is being replayed inside, and the mind refuses to forgive. I can't live without knowing. This is the ego's favorite stall tactic. It says, if I had answers, I could rest. If I knew the truth, I could move on. But the truth it seeks is not healing. It is justification. It wants the how, the why, the who, and the weapon so it can wrap its rage in righteousness. But when the facts are found, peace does not come. Because the ego didn't want peace. It wanted punishment. And when it gets it, it still suffers, because punishment is not the cure for pain. The guilt of the grandfather and the aunt. If only I had stopped her. If only I had watched more closely. If only I had said no. These are the lines the ego scripts. And the family members become actors, counting ceiling cracks at 3 a.m., replaying decisions, editing timelines in their minds. This is how the ego keeps guilt alive. Not because it solves anything, but because it believes guilt is holy. It says, to love is to suffer, to protect is to regret, to fail is to deserve punishment. But what if love was not guilt? What if protection was not control? What if forgiveness ended the movie, instead of rewinding it? The imagining of her suffering. Was she cold? Was she afraid? Was she in pain? These are not memories, they are projections. The mind, unable to accept what is, invents what might have been and calls it grief. But grief built on imagination is not sacred. It is suffering for the sake of itself. The ego says, feel what she felt, become her pain, bind your identity to her last breath. But spirit says, she is not a body, she is not lost, she is not dead. You are not broken, you are still whole. Mercy? When the boy's mother said, I pray for mercy, the girl's mother shouted, she didn't get any mercy. And so the courtroom erupted, not in healing but in the clash of two laws. The law of sacrifice versus the law of grace. One says, no peace unless pain is paid in full. The other says, there was no debt, there was no separation, there is only the memory of God. But the world chooses vengeance. It still believes in punishment, because it still believes in guilt. So why would God create a world like this? He didn't. God does not create pain. God does not create bodies to be murdered, children to be buried, futures to be stolen. The course is clear. God did not create the world you see. So who did? The ego made it, out of guilt, as an attack on God, as a veil to hide from light, as a stage to rehearse betrayal, loss and death over and over again. The creek wasn't just a crime scene, it was an altar to separation, until forgiveness walked in, the monster mask. Once the boy was caught, they couldn't say he panicked. They couldn't say he made a mistake. They had to say, he's a monster. Because to say otherwise would be to admit, he was one of us. He came from us. He could be any of us. But if he is a monster, then the world is safe from reflection. Because monsters are not mirrors, and the ego does not want to look in the mirror. Betrayal and suspicion. He stood at the vigil. He cried with us. He was part of the search team, which means he deceived us. And now, no one can be trusted. The betrayal fuels the illusion. Safety is a lie. Love is a trick. Friends can't be trusted. Family isn't enough. And God doesn't protect. But all of this is a distraction from the only betrayal that ever occurred. The belief that separation happened. The belief that God was left. The belief that love was abandoned. That is the original betrayal. And that is the only one that must be undone. I still want to kill him. The girl's best friend said it plainly. I wanted to kill him. I still do. And with that one sentence, the ritual begins. Hatred as loyalty, pain as proof of love, violence as honor. But the Course says, you are not punished for your sins, but by them. To kill in her name is to bury her twice, because no murder redeems another, no pain balances a scale, no sentence brings peace. Only forgiveness does that. She's at peace, no one said it. Not in the trial, not in the interviews, not in the memorials. No one declared, she's at peace, because no one believed it. They believed in her body. They believed in the death. They believed in the story. But the truth is, she is at peace. The only ones suffering are those who still think they are bodies too, those who believe death can separate love, those who think vengeance is more honest than grace. But the Course says, there is no death. The Son of God is free. The creek. This was the place of horror, the place of loss, the scene of death. But that is not its final meaning. The creek is now a symbol, not of murder, but of baptism, not of suffering, but of surrender. It becomes the place where guilt was laid down, where vengeance dissolved in the water, where the dream drowned. And what rose? Only light. Because when forgiveness stands at the water's edge, with lilies in hand and truth in the heart, even death cannot stand. The dream drowned here. This is not a story about a girl. It is a story about a world addicted to grief, a world trying to use pain as proof of love, a world trying to keep God on the witness stand. But this story didn't end at the trial. It didn't end in the courtroom. It ends where all illusions end, at the altar of the mind. Where innocence is remembered, where roles dissolve, where bodies are no longer worshipped, where the light returns without condition, and where the voice of love says gently, you were never guilty. You were never alone, and nothing real can be threatened.